Hey, before we get to tonight's video, we'd like to welcome our newest subscribers this week. Living Dead 247, Cindy Musselwhite, Kelly O'Neill, Mike Hawk Fishes, and our first, I believe, to my knowledge, international subscriber. This person actually was a foreign exchange student of ours when I was growing up. We used to get foreign exchange students every year, and she ended up staying longer and going a full year in high school with us. Her name is Miki. She's my international foreign exchange sister that was with us for over a year at our home, and she told my mom the other day that she loves our channel and she's been watching. So Miki, I'm glad you're watching. So let's get to the video. Hi folks, welcome back to the farm. We are doing some garden beds today, some flower beds actually. We're putting some hydrangeas in here up by the garage. And we're putting these nice landscape timbers in. That's what Kelly's working on right now. Getting the last one in. I thought I would do a video and show you how to make round corners with these straight edge timbers, because you don't have to do just straight corners. If you have a rounded area like we do right here on this sidewalk, you can make your timbers fit that radius. Got Kelly home today. She's on one of her weekdays off. She gets one weekday off a week. Using these big spikes to hold the timbers in place. They're not going to go anywhere. Anytime you put these timbers in, you want to leave a full thickness of the timber so you got really thick mulch, because the mulch is what keeps the weeds down. But if your mulch is only an inch thick, your weeds are going to poke right up through it. So we put these right on top of the ground so we got a good layer of mulch. So Kelly's going to start planting hydrangeas, but I'll show you how to do this corner right here. And I apologize for the wind. It's a little windy out here today. So what we did is we needed to figure out what the radius was first. So this is basically a quarter of a circle. So what I did was I took a line off of this line in the concrete and drew it straight out, and drew a line straight out from this line. And where they intersected, I measured from that point over to the concrete. And that gives us our radius. Now once you have your radius, you double that measurement and it gives you your diameter. Diameter is all the way across your circle. So that was a 16-inch radius. So the full circle would be 32 inches overall. And that's the measurement we're going to deal with, even though we're only doing a quarter of a circle. So you take that 32 inches and you times that by pi, which is 3.14. And that will give you the circumference, which is all the way around your circle. All right? So then you have to determine how many pieces you want in your circle. So we thought about an octagon first, but an octagon would create a 45-degree angle here in the corner, and it wouldn't hug up enough, close enough to the corner. You'd have a little dirt spot right here that you would see. So I decided to go double that. So instead of an 8-sided circle, we did a 16-sided circle. What was that called, babe? Decagon?
Something like that. Hexadecagon?
Hexadecagon or something like that. And no, we're not that smart. We had to look that up. But that's what a 16-sided circle's. Useless information. So once you figure out what your diameter is, times that by pi, get your circumference. And because we're doing 16 sided circle, you take your circumference measurement and you divide it by 16, and that will give you the length of your pieces. and that's the length all the way around the circle. So we're only using a quarter circle. So you figure a quarter of 16 is 4, correct? So we'll have 4 pieces like you see over here. There's 4 pieces, and for a 32-inch diameter, that came out to 6 1/4 long. So once we got our circumference divided by 16, we came up with 6 1/4. So then, once you figure out how long your pieces are, you have to figure out what angle that cut is. And how you do that, a circle is 360 degrees. So you divide that by 16 because you have 16 pieces. And that'll give you 22.5 degrees. So that angle between these 2 pieces is 22.5 degrees. But because you're cutting 2 pieces to get that angle, you have to split that angle in half, which is 11 1/4. So each piece has an 11 1/4 cut on it, which makes a 22.5 degree angle. So now you know your length of your pieces, and you know the angle that you got to cut them. So you cut 4 pieces, 6 1/4 long, with that angle, and that gives you your quarter circle. And I know that's about as clear as mud, but I'll put that in the description. I'll put the process to do that in the description. So we wanted these 2 sides to match. This was an existing bed here, and this, however, was not. This was not here already. So we wanted to make both sides match. Sorry about the wind again. Once I got that measurement and that angle correct, and that quarter round, we just duplicated it for this side. And then we already had these rails going, so we added another rail, figured out where it would intersect. We did a measurement from the wall, and then we put this in permanent, and then we knew what length this piece was because it's going to be the same length as that piece there. So all we had to do was measure in this piece here, and once we found out what that was, so it came out pretty easy. It looks really good. We like it. There was no defensible border here before, and there was no mulch. There was a lot of grass growing up. Let me get behind this wall so the wind doesn't, not so loud. So Kelly's got her first hydrangea in over here. She's got some other little flowers. She's going to plant kind of a ground cover down here too. And then we're going to lay all the mulch in. Probably do the mulch before we do the ground cover because it's a lot easier to put the mulch down, and then you just open up a little hole in the mulch, plant your plant, and just kind of scoot it back around. If you put your little plants in first, dumping that mulch in, it's hard not to smash them. But it looks pretty good. Kelly's doing a fantastic job out here. Not very many days we have her out here on the farm where she's able to work outside. We love having her home. We did the drip system out in the garden today, so I'll take you out and I'll show you that as well. So this tool right here is the best tool for cutting those little timbers. It's called a compound miter saw. So remember, we said we were cutting those at 11 1/4 degrees. That may sound like a pretty minute adjustment, but it's really not. See, there's 0, and it's got a detent where 0 is. So you go 5, 10, 11, and 1/4 right there, and then you tighten that up. You can go clear to 45 or just beyond to 50. And then this machine will actually tilt this direction too. That's why they call it a compound miter, because you can cut at an angle this way and an angle this way at the same time. But very handy tool. I use it a lot if you're doing a lot of trim work and stuff in the house. This is the tool to have. It's got a little table out here, and if you're cutting multiple pieces, as long as they're within this range, you can set this stop, and you can cut pieces over and over and over without measuring. And then it's got the little wheel down here that you can adjust. It's pretty cool. It's got the clamp over here that you can clamp your material in. But highly recommend one of these tools. You have to excuse my shop. It needs a good thorough cleaning. Alright, we're out at the garden. I'm going to try to stand on the right side of the camera so we don't get a lot of the wind noise. So here's the drip system we put in. It's drip tape. And we only put 5 of them in right now because I don't have the other rows planted yet. But you got your supply line coming from the hydrant over there with a pressure reducer valve and a screen filter. So we run our supply line down, and then you just pop little holes in the supply line, and those valves, those quarter turn valves, get popped right into the hole. They already have the holes in them. I'll actually put a link down in the description for this kit we bought. It's really cool. So we're doing a valve for every furrow out here. So we have the valves in place for the other hoses. The hoses are super easy. You just put them onto the nipple, and then there's a screw fitting that tightens it down onto the nipple. It could not be easier. But we got them all the way down the length of the garden, so we don't have to get out here with a hose and water no more. So if you want to do drip tape, this is a real nice system. It comes with 1,000 feet of drip tape and 100 feet of supply hose and all of your fittings. I think it was about $150, but well worth it. So we got water on the garden now, and that's going to be a godsend. But we still got to plant corn, tomatoes, peppers, and some melons. So we're going to get those in here the next week because it's warmed up now. Still got a lot of wind, but we'll protect the tomatoes from the wind with some little cages that we got. We'll put some clear wrap around the cages, leaving the top open so they don't overheat. But look at this rhubarb, it's going crazy over here. We got to get some of that picked, and I'll do a video. We'll make some rhubarb jam if you've never had that before. It's fantastic. And you don't need to mix it with strawberries like everybody thinks you need to mix rhubarb with strawberries. You really don't need to. Rhubarb is good all on its own. Here's all of our tomatoes in the greenhouse, doing real good out here. Gonna get ready to get those in the ground. We got some other stuff to plant over here too. Remember all these crazy nasty mess of trees we had right here? All gone. That was quite a job. Went through and cut them all down first, about 2 feet off the ground, then got the tractor in here and busted them all out. They weren't rooted in very deep. But we're gonna get some shoots come up. It's a wild cherry, I guess. So whenever we get a good shoot coming up, we'll keep that. We'll turn it into a nice tree, and then we'll make all the rest of this so we can keep it mowed down. For most of the tomatoes, we have these things. They were called corn tunnels. They used to put these inside the corn cribs so they could have air circulation in them. But they're about that tall. So for the determinate tomatoes, we'll just get some cheap cling wrap, like at Dollar General or something, and we'll wrap around the outsides of these all the way down to the ground. And then once we put that down in the ground and plant the tomato in, the top's open. So that'll protect the tomato from the wind, because they don't like a lot of wind, and we get plenty of that out here. And then by the time it grows up, they'll be fine. And they'll just kind of spill over the top of that. Now our indeterminate tomatoes, we're going to use actually a trellis system with some cattle panels. For the determinate tomatoes, we're going to use these cages here. We'll stake them in with some T-posts that we got. So Kelly's mulching her new flower beds here. It's a cedar mulch. It's going to last a long time. And she planted the hydrangea because it's a good sized plant, so she can just kind of push the mulch around it. And then we'll show you how to plant those little plants inside the mulch. But we probably got a good 3 to 4 inches of mulch here, and that's what you need. You can do the same thing with rock. I did that with rock in my garden at our old place. And as long as it's thick enough, you don't have to put that silly fabric down, because anybody's ever dealt with that fabric, it wants to pull up on the corners, then stuff gets up underneath it, and then you get all this weird fabric showing. So you don't really need it if your mulch is deep enough. You don't need all that landscape fabric. And if one little weed eventually tries to poke up through there, if you got a good layer of mulch, that stuff just pulls right up like nothing. So she's probably going to throw another bag in here as well to bring the layer up. So we'll come back when we got her planting those little flowers. If you step back here a ways, it looks like we bent that wood around the corner. Everybody's going to ask, how'd you bend that wood around there? No, it's cut. Oh, I forgot to tell you too, on those corners, how they're fastened together, is we just used 3-inch decking screws. We pre-drilled some toenail holes going both directions in both of those, and screwed them together. So we had a hard, rigid corner when we put it in. And then I only used, I drilled 2 half-inch holes for those big spikes. And then once those spikes are in, it can't open up. And that's the only way it could come apart, is if it were to open up. It's not going to close any further because of those screws on the outside. So those spikes will keep that corner from opening up and keep everything in there real tight. So anytime you're putting down a mulch, they recommend that you put half of it down and then give it a good soaking, and then do the top half and give it another good soaking. Otherwise, if you just soak it after you get it all in, the moisture is not going to get all the way down to the soil. And you don't want a big dry layer down there, because then when you water your plants, it'll wet the mulch down, but no water is going to get down to the soil or your plant. And then when Kelly plants these underneath the mulch, there's a little kind of a divot reservoir around the plant, so when the water does get down through the mulch, it'll pool in that little reservoir that's under the mulch instead of just running out all over the place. So next layer of mulch going down. I'm going to spread that around and wet that down. Some good looking mulch. We found this rock just out in the garden out there somewhere, but it had some neat characteristics, so we moved it up into the flower bed. But that's a real good layer of mulch. We're not going to have any weeds in that. Wind's knocking around the plants pretty good, but they'll be fine. Even if they get laid over a little bit, they'll grow towards the sun on calm days, and once they get a little tougher and a little bit bigger, they'll be fine in the wind. Randy's having a nice lazy day out here on this beautiful day. A little breezy, but still great temperature out here. Everything's turning pretty and green. When you drive down the highway in Nebraska, it looks like one giant lawn. So there's other good reasons why you want to use organic mulch. It works a little better than rock, but if you want the look, rock works fine. But the good thing about organic mulch is it's going to break down, and it's going to provide nutrients to those plants as well. Not only is it going to provide a barrier so your moisture in your bed is not evaporating and the sun's not beating down on your soil, it's going to provide the nutrients for the plants as it breaks down. Alright, Kelly's going to give you a lesson on how to plant in mulch.
I am.
So
I'm going to give myself a lesson too.
You just pull the mulch away till you find the dirt. Just pulling it back. And that's why you don't want to mulch when you got little plants in, because it's a pain in the butt. The bigger plants you can get the stuff in around. So now she's just going to dig a little hole in the dirt big enough for her little 3-inch pot. Yeah, we got some roots with some old plants that they'll disintegrate in there after a while. What are these plants called that you're putting in right now?
These are called Double Rose Chai Calabroca.
Calabroca.
They're like a double flower.
Oh, beautiful. They look like tiny little roses. That's probably why, huh? Let's get a close-up of that.
And they're a ground cover, so they'll spread out. And
oh, wow. That's beautiful. So she's putting it down in the dirt, putting her down in there, and then she'll just pull the mulch right back around the plant. She doesn't have to pull it all around. Once the thing gets growing, you can put a little more mulch at a time. But just pull the plants up, shove the mulch up underneath the plant, and you're good to go. So Kelly's favorite flower is hydrangeas. She's planted hydrangeas everywhere we've lived. Why is hydrangea your favorite flower?
They're easy to grow, number one. They're hard to kill.
That's a plus.
And I like clipping them when they get going and have big balls of flowers.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Having them in the house to look at.
I remember I picked out, I think maybe we both picked out the hydrangeas the last time. It was called a Nico Blue. Beautiful color blue hydrangea. These are more of a pinkish red color. Does it say what the variety is on the hydrangea?
These are called a Invincible Ruby.
Ooh, that's a good name, Invincible. Hard to kill.
And these are a smooth hydrangea. These are one of the most common. But with the hydrangeas, their color is determined by the pH of the soil. So this one might start out pink and end up a different color depending what's in the soil. And if I don't like that color, then they sell some stuff that'll change the pH. And I can just put that in there.
Right on. So these flower beds are turning out really nice. I'm loving them. So we still got the little flowers over here. Kelly's got them laid out. And then the beds we already had done have just a preliminary layer of mulch in it. We're going to come back and put more mulch in those. We just did that to get it started. And we're going to put more in this one over here too. And then eventually we're going to take these weird bricks out down here. And we're going to continue the bed out to the corner out there once we get more going out here. Alright, so we're going to check out of this video. We're going to get this done and then we're going to head into town for dinner. But it's been a very productive day with the drip system and getting all these flower beds done. We've been wanting to do it for a while. So come on back and see us here at Mark Kelly Farm. I'm Mark and that's Kelly. And love you guys. Stay safe, stay healthy. Bye.